Today, Climate Week wraps up here in New York, marking its 14th year. It's all put together in conjunction with the UN General Assembly and the city. Big topic of discussion.
Yeah, a lot of people getting involved with this week, and Climate Week includes it. It's really a variety of in-person events. You've probably seen a lot of it on social media as well. And the goal really here just to inspire the world to do more about climate change. Someone who's quite familiar with this fight, Ajani Stella, might even be a familiar face because he has been here on the program before virtually. Good to have you in person. President and founder of Kids Fight Climate Change. That is a youth nonprofit dedicated to getting people involved in the climate crisis. So again, good to have you. Big takeaways so far with Climate Week wrapping up.
Great, thanks so much for having me here. The main thing that I saw in Climate Week and in the UN General Assembly is that for the first time, we're having climate conversations taking the forefront. Every analyst, every report shows that Russia and climate change were the two main topics of the UN General Assembly, and that's huge. We're in a unique position right now where we're seeing the effects of climate change playing out in real time. We have the heat waves and the floods and the hurricanes all across the world, but for a few years, we're gonna have that while we still have time for action, and that's critical. We have President Biden delivering his opening remarks about climate change. We have the government of Denmark promising $13 million in payments to small countries that are being affected by climate change and don't have the resources to pay for it. So we are seeing the beginnings of those conversations.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we are really not seeing the clear action. John Kerry himself, the U.S. advisor for climate change, said that Congress would not pass money to help small states, and he said there's no point campaigning for it, so we need to make sure that we're still pushing for it.
And when you hear that, and when you still see that in action, what does that say to you? How frustrating is that? Tell us about that.
It shows them that they're not really listening to us. These politicians pretend that they're of the people, that they are listening to everything that is being said, that we're shouting at them. But then when they turn around and say, oh, it's no point telling us to do this because we're just not going to do it, it shows that they don't actually care. Their focus is politics, is making sure that they retain their power and not focusing on what actually matters to the people.
Do you think the pressure from young people such as yourself, by the way, I have to mention Ajani is 16 years old, even though he carries himself in a much
We've been talking to him for a couple of years now. He's all grown up now.
He's all grown up.
Quite impressive.
Quite impressive. 16 years old, but we have seen particularly your generation, or at least it feels this way, your generation sounding the alarm perhaps more than any other generation has.
Yeah, I think that the youth voice is so powerful because we have a unique ability to connect with each other. I think we see adults try to share their message with others, but adults are already so divided, so fractured. We're split into you're split into political parties, into different affiliations, whereas young people, we're fresh, we're new. We're able to work together and to collaborate and to see, hey, in 50 years, this is something that we're all going to have to fight for. And I think that that's really powerful for the youth voice. Also, keep in mind, we're voting in a couple of years.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Johnny, you know, the government can't do this alone. The private sector can't do it alone. It has to be a joint partnership, right? Kind of give us the vision of that. What does that look like to you, something that would kind of end in success in taking action against climate change?
I think that that idea of public-private partnership is really important. I attended a panel at the Javits Center on Thursday, and it was about carbon capture, this up-and-coming technology where we remove carbon from the air. And on the panel, they had the leader, a renewable energy leader at Deloitte, a carbon capture technology leader, a top lawyer, and a lobbyist. And those four people with very different industry backgrounds were all coming together to fight for climate solutions. And what we're seeing there is climate change is really a cross-industry issue. No matter what sector you're in, you're going to be affected by it. And what that allows us to do, different from any other issue we're facing, is we can bring together all sectors of the economy, of our society, to have joint action. We just need to encourage each other to do that.
You know, it's so much also, not just the private sector and the public sector, but we've heard so much about the impact cities as a whole will make on all of this. You are a New Yorker. Tell me what grade you would give the city right now. What do you think of what they are doing?
I would give the city a B-. I think that New York City, as a result of its unique position for offshore wind power and as a result of its relatively liberal politics, we've been able to make some good investments in producing new renewable energy and new investments in transportation infrastructure and building efficiency. But we've really dropped the ball in making sure that we have all parts accounted for. Con Edison is promising renewable energy, but not for another 2 decades. We need that to happen now. There needs to be significant government investment. At the same time, we're forgetting about minority communities, black and brown communities that are facing environmental injustices, that have higher levels of asthma and cancer rates as a result of climate inequities. And the city hasn't done enough to address that.
Johnny, you know as well as we do, there's still a lot of climate deniers out there, right? What do you want to say to those who still say, this is not really happening, this is not a big deal? What do you want to say to those to persuade them to come to your side?
Wake up. If you look outside your door, or outside your window, you're seeing that climate change is happening right now. You think that 100-degree weather for many days in Spain, in England, is what's normal? There's an element of me, though, that says that we should forget about those climate deniers. Because after all of these facts, after all of these highlights and concerns, if they're still not convinced, then maybe they never will be. But instead, what we can focus our energy on is the people who accept, okay, maybe climate change is a thing, but I can't do anything about it, or we can't do anything about it. That's wrong, and we need to show the world that we all have the ability to make an impact and make a difference.
Johnny Stella is making an impact. Thank you so much for being with us.
Good
Thanks
Good
so
to
much.
talk to you.
I know your parents are too. It's so great to have you.
Great to see you.
Thank you.